Hello, welcome. So it's a Motivation on Monday with a very, very special guest today. So I am with the lovely Sharon Griffin, and we are going to be hanging out today talking about taking that we've got off. Something's going on with the Wi-Fi here today, so I hope that we can be seen and heard. Let us know in the chat. So welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me again.
So yes, good to see you all with us. So yes, Sharon, next year we are going to schedule some dates in, and Sharon's going to start joining me and hanging out and doing some live sessions and podcast sessions together, so we can ramble and talk about art and life and all the good things. And today I invited Sharon over because last week there were people inside our community. Ryan, are you on, Ryan? If you're listening, Ryan posted that that he was feeling like, I can't remember the exact words, so I might be putting words in here that weren't actually out of his mouth or on, but feeling like, oh, I've lost motivation. I feel tired. A lot of people saying the same thing. There's been a lot of people recently just saying, I just don't feel motivated. I feel tired. And then there's some people accepting that and taking the break. But then there's some people I can see who are really starting to beat themselves up because maybe they had things that they needed to do and they just can't be bothered. And they're sat watching Netflix when they should be doing something else. And then the guilt creeps in. And then, so we thought we'd talk about this today, having a break. And I have a few post-it notes scattered around. One of them is slow down to speed up. So we're going to talk about this, just stepping back and from both of our own situations and share that with you. There was a great quote from Banksy that I wrote down this morning. We shared it on social media last week. I don't know if I've got the exact words correct, but it was something like, if you're tired, learn to take a break, don't quit. And I thought this was really, really interesting to start with, because I think sometimes when people do stop, they're maybe scared that they're quitting.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, isn't there, between just pausing and so I think there's people that do just quit because it's like, oh, this is hard, right, I'm stopping. Then there's people that are tired and they want to stop, but I think they feel guilty because they think, right, I've stopped now, I've given up on this thing, not realizing that you can pick it back up again, or the break might give you clarity and room to breathe that you actually really need. So it's we're going to talk about this stopping and pausing, and that it's okay and you can pause things. And both of us were saying we both need a break.
Just the thought of stopping makes me scared.
Yes.
Because if I stop, I think, oh no, but I've got all of this stuff that I've got to do. I've got to be making, I want to be in a workshop, I want to be writing, I've got to, I've got all of these ideas and I've only got one life, and it's like, I've got to get it all in my head. But actually, you never get anywhere doing all of it. You just need to stop for a while, just a little while, and it's still going to be there when you pick it back up again. Just have even if it's half an hour or a week, or even sometimes it's a few years for people. It's okay. You can just pause. Just take a pause. It's still going to be there when you get back.
Yeah. I think it's the time of year as well. Recording this, some people might be listening to the replay. It's December, and say no more.
Here in the UK, it's very rainy and damp and cold,
and it's chaotic.
I just want to eat loads of chocolate, and
it's chaotic though, isn't it? And there's lots of noise, and I don't know about you, but when there's lots of things, it feels heavy. And everything right now feels like a weight. So I have been, I'll share what I'm going through right now. So I recognize in myself that I need a break. And and I'm thinking I need to switch off.
That's unusual. You know, you recognise in yourself, Michelle, that you need a break.
and I think going back to what Sharon was saying earlier, though, about being afraid of that, I am actually afraid of taking a break. I know I need one, but I'm actually afraid. And I'll tell you why I'm scared, because it's the opposite reason for you. I'm scared because of my ADHD brain, I get in a, you know, when you're in a rhythm and you're moving and it's like getting off a train and the train's still going really fast. And this is my fear, is once I jump off the train's still going really fast, and I've got to try and jump back on at some point.
Yeah.
And once I've jumped off the train, what if I don't want to jump back on the train again? This is a fear. What if then, you know, you just can't get your head back in? So that's one of my big fears about taking a break, and which is why sometimes I avoid holidays and things like that, because I find it really hard after a break to turn my brain back into what I should be doing.
When you lose the momentum, you
because I lose momentum.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one of my big fears, and I'm sharing that now, recognizing it, bringing it to the table, because I know that I've got to deal with that, because you can't stay on the fast train. You've got to jump off. And
it's not sustainable. If
it isn't sustainable.
It's great when it's really great
though,
when you
great.
feel it, when you're in the moment and everything is just popping into place, and everything's like singing, and you're feeling the magic, and you're in it, and it's amazing. You don't actually want to step off that bit, do
you don't, but you've got to. You've got to, because nobody can go full pelt. So what I'm doing now is I'm asking myself, what do I need to do now so that I can switch off? And I'm bringing that fear to the surface and thinking, I've taken many breaks in the past and I've always been able to get back into it. So it's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. And now I'm looking at things that I need to get done, and I'm making a list of all the things, and I'm trying to, for the first year ever, I've got all my presents done, wrapped. I've got everything sorted, because I want to get, and I'm not saying this to brag and make other people feel bad, because you haven't done it right.
It just made me feel bad. Oh God, nervous cough.
But I've
done.
But that was me last year, and it all depends where you're at, right? You know, next year might be a completely different story. But I've just recognized in myself, I need to get rid of this weight that I'm feeling. So boom, 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 I've done it.
What is that weight? What is that weight that you're feeling?
It's just all the things to do, because my brain can only hold so many things.
Yeah.
It's like a bookshelf. So
love your analogies.
There's a bookshelf, and my brain can only hold 1 or 2 books maximum. And then if you start to put any more books on the shelf, they start falling off the edge.
Okay.
And so this time of year, the bookshelf starts to get really full. And what can then happen is I start to close down, shut down. And I think the weight is what I feel before that escalates into my brain turning into like a spinning top, where I can't think of anything. Sometimes I get so bad I can't even function anymore.
Oh, I get that spinning top.
So the weight now is me recognizing before I get to the spinning top that there's things piling up, and I literally feel it on my shoulders.
I love that we use these words, because they hold so much weight as well. I use the words emotionally charged, or that charge. You know, that you know, that you call it a spinning top, but I feel it as a charge.
Okay,
and it's like it spirals into something that I can't put a lid on, and I have to put the lid on it, and so it'll just be all-consuming. It's that all-consuming, and then it turns into a fog, and I can't function on that fog, and then it's a fog brain.
That's what we
feel. I totally get that. Totally understand that.
And that's the point where you really need a break.
Yeah.
You've really got to stop. There's no other way.
And then
you get to that point.
There was a point, I think, maybe about 2 months ago, let's just say 2 months ago, so in sort of November time, I remember feeling that emotional charge, or that spinning top, and that feeling absolutely overwhelmed. But on that, I don't want to stop, you know, that train, you know, I'm on fast forward. And I'm moving a sculpture from one section of the pottery to the other section, and the marble sculpture base falls on my toe. And it's almost like my body said, no, Sharon, you've got to stop. So then actually physically made me stop.
Yeah, because you physically
couldn't actually physically move, because I dropped a marble sculpture base on my toe, which stopped me from walking for a week.
Yeah.
We put ourselves into such a state of, I've got to do this, like intensity, that we feel as artists.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's only that we then manifest it in our bodies that then it becomes a reality. Whether it's, you can't speak, or whether, you've got a shoulder twitch, or, your hands stopped moving, or you get that fog brain, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It does manifest itself if we don't do it.
It does, yeah. And I think that's a lot of what we talk about actually is becoming really self-aware, isn't it? When you recognize where you feel things. This is interesting words you use to describe and where you feel that in your body. I remember years ago going to a doctor, and it was a therapist, not a doctor, like a general practitioner. But they were trying to get to the bottom of where I was feeling my anxiety and all of this. But I remember them saying, do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where I feel it, because I was so out of tune with my body. But now I spend a lot of time noticing where I feel things, and it does have a big difference when you notice things, whether it's in the pit of your stomach or is it on your shoulders.
You
For me, it's
mentioned
on
the
my
other
shoulders
day
right
about
now.
there's someone phoned in, or someone messaged in saying, how do you stop yourself from looking, when you go for a walk, how do you stop yourself from looking at the world, without it being an artist project? And you said, or someone said that that you just spend 10 minutes or just a portion of that time out in your walk, your daily walk, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you just stop and you just be and just breathe and just notice, and then you can get back into it again. I love these analogies. Can I tell a story?
Breathing, please do.
So
Story
once upon a time in the Sharon world, there was a spring, a summer, an autumn, and winter. And this is a paradigm of what our lives are like, when we see it wherever we are in the world. We see the spring, summer, autumn, winter, and we see it in ourselves as human beings. So in our spring is the youth, it's the new beginnings, and it's like the opening up of the buds, and the new exciting ideas, the source of inspiration. And then in the summer, we're kind of nurturing our babies, and these fruits are coming off the trees, and we're, the flowers are blossoming and blooming, and everything's full and rich and gorgeous. And then in the autumn, things pause, which is like almost like a menopause in our world, male and female. And then in the winter time, it's time to just go into yourself naturally. So this is our natural way of how we should be. And it's in our world, it's in our bodies, we are part of the earth.
When you look at the animals,
it's a fact. It is a fact.
So we as humans need to adopt the same principles.
We do. But I find it really personally, I've written this down because I go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Personally, ladies and gentlemen, I find it very difficult, as I'm living in a world where if I'm not being busy, I'm not of value, because I must earn money to be part of the economy in our patriarchal system.
Is that what you think?
That's what I think. Yeah,
because I don't.
No, this is a personal thing that I feel like part of my value is that I must be important part of my society, that get back into the economy, to feed it.
Yeah,
and that's what I've been fed.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Wow.
So that is my thing,
isn't it? But this is why it's
good. Why can't I stop? Because winter is like, it's a season to sell because it's winter time and people are looking for Christmas presents, and then you get back on that train and you're exhausted and
It's interesting because what you've just said there reminds me of me just asking myself now about what I need to get done.
Yeah.
So I'm asking myself, what do I need to get done to be able to take this break? And there's I was reading a book recently with Steve McDermott. I don't know if I've got it around to reference it properly, but it was saying how when you're looking at things to do, there are things that are urgent, and there are things that you don't really need to do.
And everything is urgent.
That's what I'm in right now. I'm looking at this list thinking, because there's, for me as well, there's sort of thinking before, I like the end of the year, and I like to wrap things up. I like to wrap things up by the end of the week, by the end of the month. I'm that kind of person.
Yeah,
I like to
I've a-
close things.
Yeah, some closure
I
gives you the
do.
dopamine levels, doesn't
I
it, in the
do
brain
like
that makes
that.
you feel good. I've just achieved something.
Yeah. And so at the end of the year, I tend to, it's been funny because I've been feeling this push-pull of I'm coming towards the end of the year, and I set big goals in January and I've dug them back out, and I'm thinking I really want to push now to get this thing done and get these things done. Then I can say I did it. But then there's this other part of me that's saying it's December now, and I kind of want to wind down. I want to spend time with my kids, and they're excited, and I want to pick them up from school and just switch everything off. And so I'm kind of navigating the, how important is this versus this? And I've been doing a lot of contemplating in the last week, just thinking, if this does not get done, if it drags over, is it the end of the world? Is it going to really make such a big difference in my life to what I'm doing to myself right now?
And what are the tools are you using? What are the tools are you using to actually stop yourself? So if you get into that, that emotional charge, that spinning top, and that, okay, I've just, in that head zone, what are the tools that you can use to make yourself stop, make yourself have a break? What is the reminder apart from dropping a marble sculpture on your foot? If you're in that extreme, I can't stop, mode. Or when we're talking, have we stopped too much? Is there a point of we've taken too much of a break and now it's time to get back into it?
I think that's what naturally happens, isn't it? Thinking about it, whenever I've taken a break in the past, you kind of get to a point where you go, I'm ready now. Because I think for me, it's the stopping, and this is where it comes. Taking a break is actually essential for mental health, for your physical being. Your body needs to stop, your brain needs to stop, and when we do, we reap the benefits, because that's where creativity comes, and that's where the mindful moments and just stopping. But the ideas come in the shower and walks and things like that for a reason, don't they? So it is essential, but I think definitely for the body as well. Now, there might be some people sitting here thinking, well, I just don't feel like I ever got started.
What are you talking about, this emotional charge or the spinning top? I have no idea.
Because I do remember there was a time like that where I just felt like year after year I was like, oh, I still haven't done anything this year. But even still, I think that it's still relevant, isn't it? Because even what you're doing, even if you don't feel like you're achieving, your brain is still doing something, whether it's thinking about what it could be doing, or it's still that part of that thinking brain needs to stop.
Does it matter whether it is, go on. Does it matter whether it is does it in alignment with the planet? Does it matter, or is
not for me? It doesn't.
No,
but I know some people
don't either.
No,
because it's seasonal. There's some obviously for galleries that I'm in, they have their holidays in January. So the winter is like the biggest. Let's get the run up to the Christmas holidays, the festive seasons, this winter seasonal, it's all about selling their work, and they make the most of their money in the summer, the winter seasons, and then it's kind of a lull in January, February time, and that's when most makers start making actually for the summer shows.
It was interesting because last week somebody said to me, I'm just going to write this down in case I got off on a tangent. Hold on.
Is it catching? It's catching.
There's a point. When I'm with Sharon, I often go on a tangent. I go on a tangent anyway. I can't blame Sharon. Everyone knows I go off on a tangent. So last week somebody said to me, because I was talking about how I've designed my own life and around the word freedom, because I like, freedom to me was the fundamental purpose of me stepping away from being employed and just being able to walk down the road. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'll just walk to Sharon's Pottery and I'll have a cup of tea, and that freedom to do that just means so much to me. It's so simple, just to choose when I go to the Pottery, and I can go whatever time, just walk to Sharon, and just such small things in my life. But somebody said to me, but do you have freedom, Michelle? Because you seem to have a very structured, rigid plan. And I replied at the time, but I've been thinking about it a lot since in the last week. And actually, for me, having structure gives me more freedom. I've always resisted it in the past because I'm spontaneous and I'm erratic and I'm all over the place. So for me, it really does give me more freedom because I know I'm here on a Monday and then it's admin day in the afternoon, and I've got Tuesdays where I'm content creating, and I have Wednesdays and Thursdays I'm in my group and I have a studio session, and it's all mapped out. And that enables me then, it's all flexible though. And I was saying this, that I don't have to do these things. I can cancel next week. But having that reduces my thinking time, my planning time, because I know where I am. And that's what I've done for taking the time off. People think I'm quite a control freak. Maybe I am. But to take time off, I'm pointing like it's over there. To take time off over there from next week, what I've had to do, this is just me personally, I've had to map out each day. Like that will be a free day where we just play board games and we just do this. That will be a day where we go somewhere else. Because I need that structure. Because if I just land into a 10-day period where I'm off, I will go, and then I literally start losing my mind, and I get anxiety. I get really anxious because I think and I also forget what things we can do, and I sit there and I go, what do we usually do? It's really strange. I don't
think it's that
is
strange.
It not strange?
Actually.
Do you understand that?
I totally get that.
Because I feel like the last week I've been a bit of I have to have this mapped out, but I've realised after somebody commenting last week that it's to buy me freedom. It's to buy me. So everyone's got a different definition of freedom, I guess. For me, it's the freedom sometimes just out of my own brain, because my brain can take control of me. So I want that time where I don't have to think about what I'm doing, don't have to Google places to go with the kids, don't have to Google like what board games to play, because I've got a loose plan.
Is it because your head is so full? If you have something written down or something that's planned out for you, you don't have to think about it. That's it.
And I get quite.
And it's okay. And then you can. You don't have to think about it or worry about it.
Yeah, it's done. I know what I'm doing, and I've got a nice flexible, because I've got structured days and non-structured days. But even on the non-structured days, I've got this written in my notebook. Got the ideas of what I can do, because it's almost like I've got this phobia. I know, it's like, don't forget, you can play board games with the kids. You can go for a walk. I know this might sound crazy, but when I'm in it, sometimes I can't describe. I just
wouldn't it be
go into a state of like, what do I do?
Just to be like our children and just be in the moment, without fear, without controls, without having all of these pressures of work or commitments or responsibility. But unfortunately, we are grown-ups and we do have commitments. We do have responsibilities. We do have to remember to be here, X, Y, and Z. We do have to remember to get the shopping in and to feed them.
But do you know what? You've just,
I think that's okay.
You've just put a nice idea in my head, and I'm going to turn one of those non-structured days into be a kid day.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to go with the flow and just it's crazy. I feel quite funny saying all this out loud now. I'm like, gosh, I can't believe how much planning I've put into having time off.
Well, at least you're planning it. That's. When I'm at home, I do exactly, or no, not exactly the same, but very similar. So on a weekend, so my weekday, I kind of structure it so that my weekday is my work day. So I have a work week, and then when I'm at work, I'm at work, and when I'm at home. Because I'm self-employed, people just assume that you can just come over to the pottery and have a cup of tea. You can anytime come over to the pottery and have a cup of tea. By the way,
I do always ask.
Anyone else just have to ask, okay? Because it's a work day.
But I do ask before I turn up. Obviously, and Sharon knows as well. She can say no, because I always say you can say no.
Always. But
I know my boundaries, and I pop for 5 minutes and I leave.
Oh, it's so lovely. It's so lovely to have people in the pottery as well. But so getting back to the work, this is my working week. And if I'm at work, I like to be at work. And then if I'm at home, I like to be at home, because then it kind of separates my my work and my home life. So because it can really be blurred, people now have access to emails. Obviously, when I was first in employment, we didn't have emails, so we can be accessible. It can be accessible 24/7, all of the years, all of the weeks throughout our lives. And sometimes it's quite nice just to turn the phone off, or to give yourself some boundaries so that you're not at work. These are your working, and we're talking about our working timetable. And if we think about instead of working for ourselves, maybe we're working for a company, and the company will say, right, here's your working hours, and then you work those hours, and then you get paid for your overtime if you choose to do overtime. But if you're self-employed, you don't get that option. You are at work all the time, so you have to put those boundaries in. And so my weekends are house stuff. If I want to get up late on a Saturday morning, I will. Thank you very much, Mimi. I love you. And
Mimi Sharon's partner.
Yes, and generally, that there's a time planned in for something activity on a Sunday. Generally swimming or something going for a walk or something. And I really, really value that. So those are kind of my regular breaks throughout the week. But then we want to go on holiday. I'm seeing some comments on here. We have a holiday, but sometimes it's very difficult to have a holiday because it's kind of forced. And you think, oh no, and I hate holidays. I hate them. I can't stand them because there's no planning.
Yeah.
It's just you do what you want.
Yeah.
I don't want to do what I want. I want to know what I'm doing.
Someone tell me.
Someone tell me, please. I can't just...
And just the idea, because I want to say, like, my definition of holiday is changing, I think, because years ago, taking a break was definitely lying around doing nothing. And now, I don't know.
That makes me a bit twitchy.
But actually, I really want to do that. I think I will end up doing a lot of that over Christmas, just lying on the sofa with the remote, I'm just going to try it.
Let's talk about social media. I'm on social media a lot. When we use social media as a way to escape, actually, when we're using social media, we don't escape to social media, we just get consumed by it again. I think I'm learning a lot from my art buddy, Wayne Chisnell, if you're watching, with my own lockdown project. And he is really good at just doing nothing. He's just really good at it.
Yeah,
where do you find the time to do nothing? It's just ridiculous. You can't just not do anything. And here's me going, fast forward, go. And it's like,
Wayne is
thought I'd go for a bike ride today.
He's brilliant. And
look at this piece of wood.
Goes for a stroll.
It notices things.
But I think we can all be like that, can't we? It's like yeah, but I think you can. It's just because you're wired right now to be the way you are.
Yeah.
Because there have been times in my life where I've been like that, and the thought of being busy, but makes you So I just
Do you remember the last time you were bored?
No. No, not me.
No. I cannot remember the last time I bored. I've started taking up knitting just to stop my brain.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the doing brain.
Yes.
We like to be active, and doing stuff, and that makes us feel more. Our other part of our brain that can process.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've noticed that if I'm knitting, I don't really knit very well, but I'm knitting something. I don't know what it is, but it's just knitting.
It'll end up being something.
I'm knitting away.
At the moment.
knitting. It's lines going that way, lines going. Knit one, purl one, drop one. It's that way, and it's kind of a really nice, gentle relaxation thing. So it stops me from going on social media.
Nice.
It stops me from looking at the telly.
Yeah,
because I have to kind of do this.
Yeah. That sounds lovely.
So just to allow myself to slow down. So those are kind of different tools that we can use.
Yeah,
that's quite.
I think that's a really good point, isn't it? Having kind of like safety nets.
Okay, I'm not bored, but I think I'm going to slow down just by picking up something that I can just do with my hands rather than eating chocolate. Shoving it down my gob. you know, that kind of stuff. So like, drinking alcohol.
I'd love to go back to this quote really quickly, actually. This one from Banksy. So if you're feeling tired, learn to take a break rather than give up or quit.
Learning to take a break.
Because, and this is a good one because I see this in people. And I think this is a good one for all of us to recognise when it's time to just stop and pause. And this is something that I'm learning how, you know, to do more or to recognise in myself. I think it can be, you know, even with an artwork, you know, it's knowing when to take the break with making an artwork, you know, when you're overthinking it, or just in life, you know, trying to sell. You know, I see some people, they're just getting to the point where they're just pushing, and it's almost, you can just see they need to just stop, come back, pull back and go back to it. But I like this bit about, but don't quit, because in those moments of that artwork being a struggle and it just looks crap, you just want to throw it in the bin. Or in that moment where you feel like you're going to all the shows and no one's buying, and you just want to throw in the towel and give up. There's some things that are going on behind the scenes for me where it's just getting really like heavy, and sometimes you just feel like, oh, why am I doing this? But it's not about quitting. I was thinking about this the other day because there was something going on with me, and sometimes I know we've both had this in the past. Something gets hard, we go, it's over.
Yeah, it's done.
Relationships, that's it. Finished. Right, this isn't working. Yeah, it's over. Move out. or you know, with things that are really hard at work. Right, I'm just closing the business down. That's it.
Yeah, that's it's too much.
This business isn't working. I'm shutting the whole thing down. You know, I used to have really extreme thoughts like that in the past, and now you recognise that, okay, this is feeling difficult. So it's not about stopping. No. It's about taking that break. And what does that look like? And in every situation, it's different, I guess, isn't it? Sometimes it's just allowing some space between people. Sometimes it's allowing space between you and, if it's your business, parking it for a while. And I think that's really important, because whenever I do that as well, you go back and then you just realise that you know so much you love about that relationship or that.
You're talking about my relationship.
My own, actually.
Everybody else's. I did. Do you remember behind the scenes a couple of years ago when things aren't working out so great? So we just moved a sideways step. Then move forward.
Yeah.
And that really worked.
Do you know what? We're going to go off topic now to relationships just for a minute, because actually I want to share something that's really. Oh no, I might start crying again. Sorry, because I had a little tear last week.
I've been crying all week.
But I'm not going to. But it's one of those things that I could get emotional about, because seeing Sharon navigating her relationship, because we. You know, and
like that.
You know, relationships are difficult, aren't they? No matter what relationship, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your, you know, whatever type of relationship, parents. Yeah, it's all has peaks and troughs, doesn't it? Yes. So Sharon and Mooney, you know, were having a period of time where it was like, ugh.
And new baby syndrome, new house, new baby, new everything, lots of trauma, lots of traumatic experiences, too much going on for both of us.
Too much. And so we didn't separate, but they just lived apart. And it was the most inspiring. It was so, because rather than just give up, you just found a solution to go, do you know what? You live over there. I'm going to live here.
Just take a break.
And what I witnessed between Sharon and Mooney was just magical, because like they had that time apart and they started to date again and they went on with these things and they just came together in the most beautiful way, and they're like that now. And so for me, you know, I went through a turbulent time following Sharon, and my ex and I decided to separate. We tried to do the living apart thing, but we ended up deciding that, okay, we ended up quitting, going, this isn't going to work. But actually now I don't feel like it was quitting anymore. I feel like we just decided that this isn't working.
Mm.
Because we're still married, we've still called each other our ex, but now we have a better relationship than ever because, and I really put that down to you, Mooney, for inspiring us, because I don't know, I can't even describe my relationship with Andrew now because it's quite bizarre. People go, because he works for United Arts Space, we see each other a lot, but we get on great, and I don't know what it is, and I'm not even questioning it, and we don't need a label. We are just what we are, and it's working. It's like riding a wave, isn't it? It's working right now, and we'll see. But
do you think it's
that goes back to taking these breaks, and we just took that break, and now I just look at this quit and giving up. I felt like we quit a couple of years ago. Now I don't, because now I feel like what we did is we paused and we've rebuilt a different kind of relationship that's not the norm.
No,
so
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but that came from that break. So
Anyway,
do you
think it's having the belief? Do you think it's having the belief and having the confidence to be able to choose how you want to live your life, and understanding the parts of your life where it just needs a little bit of gardening, a little bit of something that just needs a bit of looking at, looking after and taking care of, and that's like your precious bit of garden, and the rest of the garden, can go overgrown a little bit if you want to, but so my relationship with Meanie now is really, it feels like it's a really solid, really it feels really good. It just feels really calm. It's not so and we're now navigating what our needs are, and it's lovely. It's a lovely place to be in. And it's not you can't have one set of rules for everybody. You have to find your own. And I think if you
design your own life,
if you can find your own truth, design, and find out what your needs are in terms of whether it's your art business, whether it's your relationships with your children or your family or your friends or your social media friends, or your relationships with your art buddies. It's about understanding what your needs are and what you can give to that and what you can take away from it. And I think as long as you can really accurately look at that as much as you possibly can with your own truth, and come to that with a really visually look at it, I think you're onto a winner. I think that's okay. Funny you were talking about freedoms and we're doing a freedom. My whole project is about freedom and constraints.
Goosebump moment.
It's all about being free, and maybe it's maybe because of the the crazy world that we've been living in for the past couple of years, 18 months, which has affected everybody. Maybe it has come to the surface for a lot of people, and people are shifting around how they're working, whether whether they because of the lack of touch, with people, everything was on a screen, you couldn't just go and see your friends and have a cup of tea at the pottery, or, come here, you couldn't just like hug your family, children weren't at schools, older people were in homes isolated. It's that everybody is witnessing, and maybe that now is making us notice, actually, it's not all about work. It's maybe just time to have a break. And be okay with it. Just have a little time out for yourself.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think if there's anyone listening who does have, some kind of hang up or anxiousness around that, it's just like what we've been doing, just bringing it to the surface gently, just thinking, why is this feeling making me feel this way? And then it's just finding a solution to enable you to be able to just switch off. And it's different for everybody. It really is. And what makes you feel anxious about taking a break today might be different next month or next year.
It does control. My feelings are definitely in control of me, not the other way around. Most of the time. I was going to say something then, but I've forgotten.
Well, what about your work then? Tell us about that. The work that you're working on right now, about freedom and
just this
collaboration.
This morning and last night and all last week, actually. So obviously we're in winter time now. I'm aware that it's
some of us.
Some of us are in the UK. We're in winter in December, and we're coming up to the last, for me in my personal life, coming to the last week of my youngest daughter being in school. So it means that I've only got so many hours to get all the stuff that I need to do in, like shopping and and stuff as well, and seeing people without her being around. So like the adult stuff that I can't do when I'm with her.
Yeah.
So things like writing a personal statement. Now, this is just one little example of how much I need to have a break. This, we talk about a longer break or a shorter break. Well, this is like, I just need to give it a bit of time so I can look at it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
So Wayne and I were writing statements. So we have to write it for the Collect Open, which is going to be at Somerset House in 2021 with the Crafts Council in the UK, which is so exciting, but also 2022. Sorry, yep. I'm full of fear for it because I know that it's going to give me a different platform and it's going to step up my game. And I really want to do my absolute best that I possibly can for it. So anyway, we're writing a statement. It's got to be 120 words and it's got to be, so it's a brief overview of what the project's about. So we've got 2 people. It's a collaboration. It's about freedoms and constraints in the UK and a direct response to COVID pandemic which started in 2019. And it's about physical touch, but it's not necessarily physical touch that, we don't want to invite people to come and touch the work. It's about 2 artists who are using materials which pick up their emotions, and then we're releasing the control over to the other artists. So we're swapping the work. How do you get that in 120 words? Oh my God. So Wayne, bless him, he did it, and I'm like, oh, it's not quite. And we've got this like freedoms and constraints. Is that part in there? Do you need to have something like this in it? Anyway, it's been backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And all night long, I was like, I woke up this morning and I thought, right, I'm just going to do it. No, it's not rubbish. Just 120 words, short statement. It's just 120 words. Can I write it? No, I bloody can't. Find it so hard, which is why I need a break from it. So this morning I thought, I'm just going to have another look. So last night I just left it, had another look, and actually the one that Wayne wrote in the first place just needed a little bit of tweaking.
And see it in a different light when you have a step back. Or
just that, just a step, just to one side, just to have a look at it with fresh eyes.
I think it's that stepping back. Also, sometimes for me, it's about allowing something to process. Because the first time you come across something, you just need time to digest it. And this is a great example of people that take the courses that we create. So Sharon teaches Make Your Mark, I teach 7 Keys, and I've just taken a course, 2 courses myself this year as well, and experienced the same thing of when you come across something brand new for the first time, maybe it's something somebody else is writing or a full course that's retraining you a framework that you've never come across. It's a lot. It's kind of, you've got to plant that seed first before the answers can arrive. And the courses that I've been doing this year has definitely been that, where I had to just go through the course first, and I couldn't even answer any of the questions. I can't even explain. I just had to get my head around because it was like a different language. Like, what are they talking about? And I see this when people take our courses. Sometimes they're in that moment, and that's the point where they want to give up. It's the point we all want to give up because we're not understanding it. It's new. It's difficult. It's like, ugh. But when you keep pushing through, allow that space. So this year, it's taken me a whole year to do this course. It's only a 5-week course. Now, there are some people on the course that have done it and they've got their book out into the world and they've done it. For me, I've had to go back and I'm on the 4th round of doing the same course, the 4th time I'm doing it. And now it's starting to click into place. But I've had to do the course, take a break, go back, do the course, take a break, go back, take a break. But do you know what? Something incredible's happened though from taking those breaks and taking my time. Because what I've realized is, back when I started it, which was nearly a year ago, all the questions that I answered, it's like it was a different person. I can just see that it was I was going in the wrong direction. So sometimes there's a lot to be said for just you always say this, it's the long game.
It is
We
absolutely
don't
the long
have
game.
to rush and get the answers to things right now.
That's a good
because-
another analogy. A long game.
The long game.
You know,
Because if I'd have rushed that course
Yeah.
and done it in
Yeah.
those 5 weeks and pushed something out, it would have been the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And I've taken my time, and now I'm really certain. I'm getting really excited. I did a session on Friday on that sofa with my members, and I was looking back through the course, and I was like, ding, 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 these ideas, these things that started to come into place. And I looked back at the questions from the year before thinking, gosh, that was just not the right, I wasn't in the right place. So sometimes it's about, are you ready for what we're going a bit deep now, aren't we?
I love
Going
a bit deep. Though. Let's do some like doing deep conversation. None of this surface stuff nonsense. Just want deep stuff straight away.
Yeah, sometimes I look now and I think I was not ready. I was not ready. So sometimes the breaks are just that time to just process, adapt, change your thinking.
It takes a lot of bravery to do that as well, though, doesn't it? Because we're always in a rush. I feel like I'm always in a rush, and I've noticed quite a lot of people who are always in a rush to get somewhere before they miss the boat. There's all of these phrases that you can say, or miss the boat, or you only get that door open, will only open once, seize the day, all of this stuff, which are words to describe to live in the future. Go, 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 go. Where are you going to? And why is it so important to you to get there? And why is it so important to be in a rush to get there? And maybe what we are doing is we compare ourselves to a lot of people. And I know that I do, I and that's okay too. You compare yourself with, their lives, and because it kind of helps you figure out what you want in your own world, and then how you want to develop as an artist, if we're talking about artistic processes. And that's okay, but it doesn't have to be in a rush. It doesn't have to be at the same level or the same pace as somebody else, because you're an individual. You have to do it on your own terms, in your own time. And I know that for a fact I do not take any of my own medicine ever. never do it now. Go and drop the sculpture on my foot. Stop. Okay. It's like my body is saying, that's enough. Get in the corner. Go and have some time out.
Yeah.
It's very, very true. I'm very excited about moving forward, but only when the time is right. So I know that at the moment, behind the scenes, I'm preparing behind the scenes. God, the seams are bulging in my at the moment, all this chocolate I'm shoving down my face, hence the knitting. Behind the scenes, I mean.
I thought you, sorry, for 1 minute then, I thought you were knitting yourself some bigger clothes, but you don't mean that. You do mean that, yeah.
I might do that, actually. That's a good idea. Make myself a really big jump. Yeah. That's really funny.
A chocolate suit.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. And that'll be interesting on date night as well. Another off the tangent. Sorry about that. What was I don't know. Talk about behind the scenes, making lots of work, and I'm not showing it to anyone. So behind the scenes, I'm preparing, to get into that next level platform, which is going to be visible on the international platform, which is nerve-wracking. I am so nervous about it, but also very excited.
Yeah.
And I also need to get rid of this emotional charge, push it down a bit, and be in the moment. So it's not about future. So how do we? How do I come across to people? Just noticing, how am I coming across? Am I coming across as a professional artist? Just really looking at myself as a person, as a personality, as a product, if you like. And what my intentions are. Why do I need that platform in the first place? And it is about making connections with people and exploring art and journeys, and making really valuable, deep connections with communities, which is you and I, our family, our immediate communities, our wider communities, our world, and promoting art and well-being and mental health and all that sort of stuff that we all need. So
I like
I'm
what
preparing,
you're saying. Yeah,
I'm preparing, and that pause.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to have a break to just see it, right? What is the intention? Have a regroup with yourself.
Yeah.
What is my intention? Why is it this so important? Which is why it's so difficult to get it into, you know, that statement in 120 words.
And this is what we're going to be covering in Best Year Yet workshops. I just want to say it's about being intentional. Yeah. And what you just said there, it reminds me about the whole book writing process. It's like I had to take a step back actually before I delved into it after doing the first course and realizing that I had loads of questions and loads of fear as well. And I had to ask myself, you know, the same kind of questions that you were asking. Who do I need to be?
Yeah.
What do I need to do now to start to stride into this person that's stepping way out of the comfort zone?
So we're not talking about, you're not talking about personal journey. We're talking about our artistic profile and our artistic voice and our...
Because and I like this because what you're saying is it's that moment, it's going back to that moment again where sometimes something can feel too scary, it can feel too big, it can feel too difficult,
and then you want to just quit.
But actually taking that step back and thinking, hold on a minute, okay, what things do I need to put into place now? Who do I need to be? What do I need to have? Beth Kempton talks about this, about I can't remember the exact list, but she says, you know, ask yourself, who do I need to be? What do I need to have? What do I need to learn? There's like 5 things. I can't remember the 5, but just to really, because you can do anything and be anything when you put your mind to it. So and sometimes things take a longer time. It's that long game. It's okay. Doesn't mean you need to quit. It's just
you just need to have a little break.
Just have a little break.
Do some knitting. You'll get a scarf for Christmas. About this long. Some socks.
And by the way, and we were teasing each other, Sharon looks absolutely gorgeous, so you do not need a chocolate soup.
I don't mind.
We're just having a bit of banter.
Yeah. I do need a chocolate.
We all need one.
Looking forward to that.
Anyway, so I think that's a wrap. Would you like to see Sharon back on the Your Art Matters podcast? Let us know in the comments if you would, because I would definitely love to do another session with Sharon.
Me too.
And we should, I saw someone say that we need more than once a month, but I'm just conscious that Sharon gets really busy. So we'll start with once a month and see how we get on, because I don't want to scare her away. Yeah.
Emotionally charged.
We're probably going to do it like the second Monday in the month, but we'll sort that out. We'd have to sort that out now.
Oh, it's exciting. I love these podcasts. They're amazing. Absolutely amazing. So valuable for everybody.
Yeah. It's
for
a
me
nice tipping
too.
group,
It's good.
isn't it? So to summarise, take a break, do some knitting. But no, in all seriousness though, that just knowing that we're in control. We are in control, aren't we? And I think sometimes the brain just starts to trick us, thinking, oh, if you take a break, you're not going to be able to do this. And if you take a break, you'll never get back to work again. What if your whole business collapses? And it's just trying to bring things back into perspective and just take a breath. Just be in the moment. Be in the moment today, because there might not be tomorrow.
In control of your own thoughts.
Yeah.
You said that to me
a
few years ago.
Yeah, be in control of your own thoughts.
You are in control of your own thoughts. And you can think whatever you like.
Yeah. Right, big love to you all.
Thank you so much.
I'll be back next week. I'm going to be back doing a planning session. So we're going to start the prep work for Best Year Yet workshops. If you haven't signed up yet, the link should be above the top. And in that session, we'll be reflecting back on 2021, which is the best place to start before you plan for the year. So Best Year Yet workshops start on the 6th of January, but we'll start the prep work and deliver that next week so that you can start chipping away before we start on the 6th. And it's going to be a really fun workshop. I love doing these sessions because we all come together as a big group and get really excited about 2022. So
it's exciting.
Yes, it's going to be so good. So take care, everyone. Thank you so much for Sharon for joining. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will go back to the comments. If you left comments live, we'll go back and have a look. Have a lovely day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.